Welcome to Dark 10. Today, we're going to go over 10 scary Reddit scary stories. Make sure to watch until number 1, because it's one of the scariest stories I've ever read. Number 10. She Found Her Way Into My Home, by W.D. Alphen. He hasn't had any sleep in days. He was terrified without ever having to contact or speak with it. And it all began when the woman appeared in his yard one afternoon. My wife had gone to bed before me, so all was quiet. Since my side of the bed faces the windows and our bedroom looks out over the backyard, I have to walk past them to get in. I instantly had the same deep fear in my stomach that I had the first time I saw the figure in the backyard while I was doing so. Something caused me to pause by the windows. My hands were trembling as I drew the curtain back a little and peered into the backyard through the shades. The backyard was not obscured by darkness because it was a bright night. Number 9. Autopilot, by Scarjo. It all begins with a small shift in routine. Something is gone at the end of the day, and you can never get it back. Have you ever left your phone at home? When did you realize you hadn't remembered it? I'm betting you didn't just slap your forehead and say, "Damn," for no apparent reason. It's unlikely that the realization came to you on its own. More than likely, you searched for your phone, pawing through your pocket or handbag, and were surprised to find it missing. Then you went through the events of the morning in your head again. Number 8. I Found a Videotape, by Haunted Tape. A camcorder discovered buried in the sand with water seeping out of every crevice can't be healthy. While it seemed that the camcorder had been completely destroyed, we reasoned that the data on the tape could still be recoverable. At home, I had an older Sony digital camcorder that used the same tape. When John dropped me off at home later that day, I brought the tape and camcorder inside with me. I placed it on my computer desk and promptly forgot about it for nearly a week. Number 7. Correspondence, by Bloodstains. When words come out of nowhere in an email conversation between friends, it turns into a terrifying mystery. That's probably the best example of the kind of culture and consistency I was talking about earlier on our No Sleep. In a nutshell, it's a collection of data-mined communications between people that gradually expose some weird and disturbing information. In the forums, the crowd got really interested in that one. There are a variety of accounts that are used. It's a lot of interactivity and complex storytelling. It's fantastic. 1,000 vultures. It was like something out of a bad horror movie. We walked up to this dilapidated shack. It was a dump. I knocked on the door but received no answer, so we began walking back to the car. I noticed an older woman standing in the window as I was getting into the car. Dude, it was fucking scary. Number 6. Wrong Way Charlie, by Sammy Fowler. Some cats need more than 9 lives to survive. I wouldn't say this story kept me up at night, but it is the only one that has stuck with me. Wrong Way Charlie is too reasonable and hits a little too close to home, which is why this is the case. This didn't happen to me, but it almost did, and the possibility of what might have happened is terrifying. My Nails Bite Midnight's kittens were miniature versions of him. There were a total of 8 of them. With the exception of one, who had a speck of white fur above his nose and white front paws, they were all the same jet black color. That one belonged to me. I knew as soon as I saw him. Number 5. The Soul Game, by Bloodworth. Kids will say the most bizarre things. They can even persuade your child to enter a cult if you're not careful. The Bloodworth stories almost made me puke, due to the gruesome and delicate descriptions, but none of them have stopped me awake, despite the lights on and teddy bear guards. Tashiwa adverbial Jesse would say, "Stan is my new best friend." I understand. I'm excited to meet him, I'd reply. Mom, Stan is fantastic. You want to meet him? He's been one of my new best friends. The best on the planet. That night, we must have had this conversation 1,000 times. Jesse looked up at me with tears in his eyes as I tucked him in. He motioned me closer with his little hand in front of his face and a wiggle of his index finger. He placed his hands on either side of his mouth as I knelt over him. You know, the way a little kid tells a secret? So I turned around and he whispered something into my ear that made me feel a little uneasy. I wasn't sure why it made me feel uneasy at the time, but it did. You believe me, he said quietly. Are you sure, Mom? Number 4. Butcherface, by Dash 32. When renovating an old house, you never know what you'll find, particularly if it's wrapped in a dirty trash bag and stuffed in a hole in the ground. Very visceral and disturbing. It's one of the few stories with a clear antagonist, because you know where the fear comes from, but that doesn't make it any easier to deal with. It's broken up into many pieces and takes you on a wild ride. 1,000 vultures. We ripped up the carpet and began tearing out the floorboards when we discovered what seemed to be a 5-foot deep hole under the floor. When Chris said something was down there, he jumped down there thinking he could get better leverage to break up the boards. We jumped down to try it out after his father got a flashlight. It turned out to be an extremely dangerous package. It resembled a shoebox in appearance, but it was about 3 feet long and severely weathered. You wouldn't be able to pick it up in one piece because it was so tattered. We assumed whatever was inside would be equally destroyed, but when we ripped it open, we discovered that whatever was inside was protected by a black trash bag. Number 3. Plot Holes by Omega Okami. True friendships are eternal. And after you've died. It deftly treads the line of our everything is valid when you're here maxim and gets you thinking. My nails bite. I sensed something as soon as I walked in. It was different, but it was also familiar. As I looked at Jake, I had the same feeling. Something wasn't quite right, and it was just off. However, it was a lingering sensation here. This isn't a new, what the hell? When I saw my mate, I felt something. I took a step forward and lowered my gaze. There it was, the damn hole he'd fallen into. I sighed a sigh of relief and knelt down. So I wasn't mad. I took out my regular flashlight and shone it down into the abyss. Yes, indeed. That's where I saw him crash land. Jake isn't there. Is he now free? Is it possible that he regenerated magically? I raised my flashlight to look up at the second floor hole. It was not to be found. Number 2. I found a USB stick, the Longface, by 5. On his way to work, a man comes across a USB stick on the floor and tries to search inside for clues as to who it belongs to. Instead, he discovers a trail of email messages that should never have been sent in the first place. It's all so eerie and one of a kind. It's a thought-provoking story. RastaMom is a member of the RastaMom group. Today, the strangest thing happened to me. I was trying to get rid of some old DVDs, remember 4 Lions? I noticed there were 5 DVDs on one of the shelves in front of me. It was such a good movie, and I noticed there were 5 DVDs on one of the shelves in front of me. It was such a good movie. It reminded me of the long face. I laughed at myself, but then I noticed a face as I went to put the DVD I was carrying into the bag. I'm referring to the bag. The 2 clips resembled eyes, while the opening resembled a mouth. If you have to joke, do so. I removed 2 DVDs from the bag and put them on the shelf. After that, the face vanished. The bag was most likely kicked into a different location by me. Number 1. The M Show Fan Club, by Lenalona. Every little girl's dream is to be a member of their favorite TV show's fan club. Only when these young ladies send in their membership application did they receive anything surprising in exchange. They started with the kids. Few parents protested because they were all too excited. Even so, 3 or 4 parents arrived, which calmed the rest of the children. The next bus, which was supposed to arrive in a few minutes and transport everyone to the set, was supposed to arrive in a few minutes. When I found out, I was ecstatic like I'd never been before. I dashed down the street to scope out the scene in order to board the bus first. Scarlett was right behind me. As Brandy's mother spoke to mine, I didn't notice her concerned face. I couldn't understand why the cops arrived so quickly. Subscribe Dark 10 and turn on notifications so you don't miss more videos of creepy, interesting, or scary facts and much more. Check out this playlist of my Dark 10 videos of crime and killers and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.